Good afternoon, it's Gary Sly and the Legacy of Handmade Objects. It's Tuesday, August 25th of 2026. You may have noticed that I did not come in yesterday on Monday. I think I'm coming to the realization that Mondays are just too crazy, and I'm probably going to have to choose another day to put my videos together, but we'll see. I guess what happens on Mondays is I push all of the errands that I don't normally get time to do the rest of the week, and the shop doesn't open until 1. So sometimes by the time I get around to opening the shop and doing what I need to do at the beginning of the week, I'm too tired. So the long and the short of it is I decided to pick up today. There's a project that I'm working on, or I'm about to start working on here in the shop, that's really kind of interesting. And I thought it might be fun to share that with you, and then maybe in a month or two when it's all done, you can see the end result as well. I'd also welcome any comments or suggestions that anybody else has, because there's not necessarily a manual for how to do every kind of repair or stitch that we might be looking for, and I would covet any information that anybody has. Needlepoint is one of my favorite things to do. I wouldn't say it's my tippy-top favorite, but it's certainly way up there. And I'm finding that needlepoint is becoming quite popular. Seeing a lot of young folks come in who are interested in needlepoint. I'm actually going to go to the big needlepoint conference, the wholesale shopping event in April next year, because for one thing, it's right here in Florida. I don't have to travel very far, but also because I think I'm going to start dealing in needlepoint a little bit more heavily than I have in the past. With Chrissy Morgan and finally a farm girl moving in part of my shop, she's covering an awful lot of cross-stitch designs. And of course, I still have about 10,000 in the back room, but I think it might be good for me to bifurcate a little bit and move off in another direction. So a friend of mine named Linda, who I've known for many years and have great connection with her and her family, we've connected a few times through the years as she's worked on projects and things like that. Her mother, who passed away a few years back, was an avid needlepointer and had done many family projects which Linda had inherited. And one of her favorites was a footstool with this wonderful design on it. I take that to be lilies or something like that. It's just a beautiful design. And as I'm holding it there for you to see, you can't see too much wrong with it. The problem was it was covering a footstool, and Linda and her husband Ross bought a new puppy and brought it into the house. And the puppy, as puppies will do, was teething, and the puppy got really excited about the corners of this footstool. So you can see what happened. This piece, now she's tried to put a piece of canvas on the back of that. I'm going to take that off. This puppy got a hold of this footstool and did a really nice job of rounding off all 4 corners of the pattern. The piece is about 50 years old, but if you've ever done needlepoint, especially with wool, you know that it is remarkably long-lasting, and it's great. And of course, the nice thing about this is when you look at the whole piece, you can see that it did not damage the design part at all. It really just tore up this black background on all 4 corners, and I'm sure the puppy had quite a fun time making a ball of fuzz with all this. Now, what Linda did initially was take another piece of fabric from another needlepoint project, and she's basted this onto the corner, but then I think maybe got as far as that and decided she wasn't quite sure what to do. So she contacted me. I urged her to check with the local shops in Richmond, Virginia before she sent it down, but they didn't seem to have anybody willing to tackle it either. So I said, send it along and I'll see what I can do. So, excuse me, you know how I love legacy projects, and you know how important it is for family members to retain things like this. Her mother has passed, and this is a piece that she did in love and respect for her family. It still has her mother's DNA and the essence of her mother on it. And so I'm going to attempt to do some restoration. Now, as I have begun to examine it a bit, the background, of course, is all on black, using black wool. And so I carry a line of Persian Patternayan wools from Colonial Needlework, and I have some of the Persian Patternayan in black, and it is 3-stranded. I have these cards, and if I need a whole lot, I can order a skein, and I may end up doing that for this project. But for right now, I've pulled out the black, and it looks like it's going to match pretty nicely with what's there. So I'm beginning to eye that a bit. And then it appears the canvas is a 10 count. I don't have any 10 count in stock. I've got some 12 count blank canvas here. I'm going to play around with stitching on this just a little bit to see if the difference between 10 and 12 is that noticeable. If I find that it is, of course, I'll have to track down some 10 count canvas. My guess, though, is since we're just repairing around the edges, and when she puts it back on the footstool, not very much of this part is going to show anyway, that we're going to be okay with the 12 count, but I'm going to try that. And what I am thinking I'm going to do is I'm going to lay this piece of 12 count out flat, and I'm simply going to put the whole piece on top of this and baste it, and just go around, pick out the areas where there's damage, and take my black Persian Patternayan yarn and try to repair. This is a fascinating prospect because it's not something that I've tried before. I've done some restoration. I did some work for the local Episcopal church with some gold work. So you see, if I lay that whole piece on top of my 12 count canvas, I believe what I can do, I'll just baste it in place so it doesn't wiggle around, make sure it's nice and straight, and then I'll start pulling out the areas where there is damage, and then stitch directly onto this canvas, but kind of intertwine it with what's here already, and try to make a fairly seamless transition from the old to the new. Now that's my theory. This is where, if any of you has any experience in this and you have any better ideas or any ideas that will make it look more original, I would love to know that. I guess one of the things I thought about was just cutting out a piece of canvas on each corner, basting that in place and working from there. But it seems to me using a full piece will stabilize the whole piece and maybe make it a little easier when they get ready to re-cushion this footstool and put it back on its original home. But again, if some of you have tried this, if some of you have ideas about what might be helpful, I would very much covet that information. The other thing I have not tried to do, but of course I'm going to here very soon, is figure out how to clear out the bad stuff. Because you can see it's pretty tattered and frayed there on the corners, and I'm going to have to go back to where there's a good solid foundation and try to match up and connect with what's there, probably cut off pieces like this one, and just kind of go back to where there is a good strong foundation and work from there. So if any of you have experience with this and you've tried to do it, and you might have some tips or some tricks that would be helpful, I would love to have those as well. I can't overstate for me how important projects like this are. I know from my own experience with some of the artifacts and legacy pieces that I have, how valuable they are to me, how much they mean to me. I know Linda and her mom were very close, and Linda, in fact, I think did some stitching herself while her mother was still living. I'm not sure of that, but you know, this is a handmade piece. And as I said before, it's got the essence of her mom in it. And so I can easily imagine how important it is to her. So I'm going to, this is on the stack now. I've been doing quite a bit of framing in the last few weeks. I got some beautiful samplers in that a woman did up in the Mid-Atlantic and has had them for many years and hasn't had a chance to have them framed. And her sister here is trying to do some of that for her. I've got an 1837 sampler that we just did some appraisal work on, and I'm getting ready to reframe that and put it back in somewhere safe where it can be taken good care of. Maybe I'll show you a few of those pieces as I move through the framing in the next few weeks. But just wanted to take a minute and throw out there this project that I'm getting ready to start. And before I get in the thick of it, see if anybody else had any ideas that might be better than the one that I have formed in terms of what I'm going to work on. Otherwise, I've had a busy couple weeks. A dear friend of mine from college passed away about 2 months ago. She was a pretty well-known political figure in North Carolina. What distinguished her work for me is that I would not call her a typical politician. Her name was Jamesetta Bedford. She was the chair of the county commission where Chapel Hill and the University of North Carolina is located. Obviously a pretty influential part of the state. And Jamesetta was so well known, not for her power, not for her greed, but for her advocacy of families with children with neurodivergent or autistic issues. She worked very hard in the school board to improve the education system, and I was honored to be one of the speakers at her memorial service and talk about the contributions that she's made. I did say, and I will say it again to anybody who wants to listen, that's what we need in our political life today. I don't care what your political beliefs are and where your background may lie, but if we have elected officials who are not looking out for the best interest of their constituents, then we've got problems on our hands. If political figures are enriching themselves and not taking care of the poorest and the weakest and the ones who need their help the most, then I'm just not going to be very impressed with anything they have to say to me. So that was an important event. I felt real good about going. About 25 of us from all over the country who were part of a service fraternity that meant a lot to us in our undergraduate days, were able to gather together, and that meant just a great deal. This coming weekend, I'm taking a quick little trip down to South Florida again to see someone who's suffering and a relative who is in need of care, and we're going to go down and spend a little time with her. That'll probably be my big traveling. August has been pretty busy in terms of travel, so I'll slow down on travel. September with Labor Day, I've got some good friends coming to visit here, so I'm looking forward to that. And then my daughter's getting married in Pittsburgh in October, so I'm already making plans for 4 or 5 days to travel up there and celebrate that wonderful occasion. I do love to travel, but it's been exciting to see things taking off and a lot of activity here in the shop as well, so I kind of feel like I have to balance that. So that's it for today. New project, all kinds of fun things happening. Love to know that you're out there. If you have any ideas about needlepoint, feel free to share them. It's always helpful for me if people comment on broadcasts, just so that I know you're there. I realize I've got a certain number of subscribers, but a lot of time it just kind of feels like I'm talking to a screen. So feel free to comment and give me information if you haven't. As always, this is Gary Sly, and it's the Legacy of Handmade Objects.